So great to be here. What fun we've had last few days.
Hiya.
Okay, hiya, right here. Right, good. I was just saying it's lovely to be here. And I also wanted to say thank you to Sue and Sheila. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to be here right now. Wonderful. So coming home. We all long to be home. There's a longing inside to be back to a space that we already know. We know it, we intuit it. It's within. Is it?
Just some static.
This space, many of us are looking for it. We all fall into, oh, it's, okay.
Try my ice cream cone.
Yeah, this is better, yeah, good. So we're looking for it, we're looking for this home because we intuit that it's there. We know this space, we recognize this space, we fall into this space naturally. And when we do, there's an ease. There's something there that's just home. It's where I can be completely myself. So for many of us, and for me, I've been looking for this outside for all of my life. Until the moment that I found out it's not a place that I can go to, it's where I'm looking from. So home is a space inside. And when we say inside, we don't mean inside the body. There's no place inside where we can find this space. But it's a space that everything arises from. Every single bit of your human experience arises within this space. Every thought, every feeling, every sensation, all of your senses, everything you can taste and touch and feel and think arises within this space. This space, this aware space, this space of pure consciousness, is where all objects arise from. There's an awareness behind everything we can see. And because it's not an object, it doesn't share the limitations of objects. That's why you've heard us and other people speak about it cannot be broken, it cannot be harmed, it cannot be destroyed, because it's not an object. So this space is also, we could call it the wisdom space. It is where all of the intelligence behind life arises from. The intelligence that gives rise to everything we see around us. An intelligence that knows how to create life and operate life as we know it. Not only us human beings, but animals, plants, everything. So within this space there's an intelligence, there's this power that Sid would call universal mind. It's in this space, it's full of it, it's where everything arises from. You can also call this space consciousness or awareness. It is aware of everything that arises. So when a thought arises, there's an awareness of it. I can ask you, what are you thinking? You can tell me. Well, there's something that needs to be aware of that thought for you to be able to answer my question. The awareness that knows the thought doesn't share the limitations of the thought. The thought has limits. It has time. It comes and it goes. The awareness behind it is that which always is present. So everything arises in this awareness and doesn't share everything that can happen with an object. An object can come and go. An object can be taken away from us at any time. If I have the thought, I need to have $1 million in my bank account to be happy, that could be taken away from me even if I did get it. So there's a limit to objects, and the awareness behind it is limitless. Has no boundaries, open, pure space. We can also call this space within the power of thought, because it's where everything arises from. Every single aspect of creativity, every single experience we can have comes from this space, comes from this power of thought. So home is the three principles in action. It's a space, they're formless principles. We call them principles because they are always there, and there's no exceptions. There's no one out here or anywhere else in the world where you could say, no, it's not me, I'm the exception. I know it feels that way sometimes. But for us all, this is where everything arises from. And we are that awareness behind them. We are that which is aware of everything that arises in this space that we call home. And I started saying that we all long to be home. So why aren't we there? Why does it feel like we get caught up in the outside world and we forget who we are? Well, this is the human predicament. This is what happens to all of us. We get so involved in the objects that arise in this home that we forget that we are the awareness behind it. It looks so real, doesn't it? Because this space has all of the five senses engaged constantly. So whenever you have an experience, you see it, you feel it, you touch it, and you feel it in your body and like, well, it must be true because I'm feeling this way, right? So we get caught up in the experience and we forget the awareness behind the experience. It's all that ever happens when we get caught up is that we forget who we are. We get caught up in what's going on our inner screen, and we forget what the movie is being projected onto or out from, which is this pure awareness. So this is what our book is about. This is what we wanted to talk about, this space within that is in a way completely empty, but also at the same time full of the potential to have any experience.
I never, ever, ever get tired of people pointing us home. As all Sid did. Hundreds of people a day would come looking for this enlightened man. One time I asked him, I said, Sid, what did you do when all these people, 200 people a day were getting off a ferry on this island, coming from all over the world looking for him? And he said, go home. In this case, he meant it both ways. He said, go home. You can't get wisdom from another person. You can only find it deep within the quiet of your own being. And being is another word for infinite space. The infinite space of energy in which we are being danced and lived. And we're an intimate part of that dance. Inseparable. I love the universality of this. I used to give a lot of talks, and I would talk about. Hello?
Do you want my one?
Silence.
Silence. This is not working either. Battery.
Battery. We need the battery. We need that energy to live.
It was really
Thank you.
very, very beautiful.
Oh, the blue one? Hello? Oh.
Go anywhere in the world. That's the universality of principles. I used to go around and talk about all kinds of experiences I had and ideas I had learned. And people found it extremely entertaining, but it didn't awaken their heart. It gave them a moment of laughter or a moment of peace, but it didn't allow them to gain an understanding so that they could walk in that world. Right? So I met Sid Banks, and he says, all human beings have a mind, but it's not their brain. Our mind is far vaster and greater than anyone can imagine, and it is capable of things beyond anything people can imagine. And we all think. I go anywhere in the world and I can say, we all think, and I've never had anybody disagree, because it's not an idea, it's a fact. There is a power in life that generates an experiential life for all human beings. I can say we're all aware, and we can be aware of the fact of thought. We can be aware of life. We can be aware of what's created. We can be aware of being. Right? We can begin to recognize the truth of this space. Recently, I had the fortune to go to Colorado to a ranch that some friends of mine have, and I went there to do a 3-day seminar. And my friend Sumaya has horses, 3 horses. And she says, the way I've learned from being in the presence of babies, what it means to fall out of personal thinking and just be, and be free to have all kinds of experiences without judgment and story. Right? She has learned similar lessons from being in the presence of horses. So she said, Dicken, would you like to meet my horses? I did not say nay. I said yay. So she took me down to the corral, and she says, I want you to learn to meet horses the way they meet one another. And it's not like humans do, where you walk right up and you get in their face and you touch them. She says, stand back from the fence. Now, Sumaya and I have a metaphor that we both like, that we can be uptight in our heads, thinking. We can wake up out of that and then drop in to presence. Drop in, metaphorically, into an opening, into a spaciousness. So she says to me, Dicken, just stand here. There's nothing you have to do but drop in. Horses are incredibly sensitive to presence. She says, drop in and give each horse your regard. So there are 3 horses, and they're sort of running around in this corral. And she told me which one is the alpha horse, which one's the second in line, third in line in terms of their little communal hierarchy. So I started with the leader, and I just dropped in and just gazed. When we drop in, we start seeing from the inside, through that feeling, presence. I just gave him my regard. You know what happened? He stopped running around and came right over to me. Even now I'm getting goosebumps. And he just, talk about presence. He just looked right at me. And Sumaya had explained, horses are always sensitive to tension, and then they will immediately, when they feel tension, do something. They'll shake it off, or they'll... That was pretty good. Channeling my inner horse. Or they'll chew on something, or they'll do something to immediately, and I said, oh my God, wouldn't that be great if all of us, the instant we felt tension, we go, oh, thought, and just dropped in. Okay? So this horse is just standing there, and we're just looking at each other, and it's like, remember I told you my experience is, this to me is very ordinary. I can drop in anytime, anywhere. We all can. It's built into us. That's a huge part of Sid's teaching. We can wake up to the fact of thought, and we can drop into a space where magic happens. The word that has been coming to mind the last month is intimacy, and I fell into love, and the horse was already there waiting, and we lived in this experiential connection. And I looked over at the second horse and gave its regard. And it comes right up close, not as close as the main one, because that one would sort of push it away. You know, I'm the alpha. Gave regard to the third one, it came over. People are like this too. People are like this too. The beauty of learning about the principles is as people learn, I live in the world of thought, they start waking up out of conditioned, limited thinking and being identified with that, as Natasha so beautifully spoke. We start seeing ourselves caught up, and there's a feeling to it, and there's tension in that feeling, and just like horses, as our understanding deepens, we become more sensitive to that tension, and we see it as Bill. Oh, Bill, thank you. This tension is not a curse. It's a love letter from God, reminding us of this space, of our true nature. Thank God I feel anxious, stressed, upset, confused. It doesn't mean anything about the world, so it's not an invitation to try and figure out and think more about this situation, problem, person. It's just an indication that I'm caught up. I am uptight, right? And metaphorically. We drop into being chipmunks. That stillness, that Sid says that's what every human being is looking for and they don't know it, is when we disengage from that thinking, which some people very simply just call the now, this dropping into presence. To me, it feels like when I'm thinking about things, my world diminishes to a little point and I'm not very aware of what's around me. I'm in my head thinking. And when I realize that I'm uptight, when I drop in, here's the room. Here's life happening. I show up for life. Sid says it's like going from the known to the unknown. Because it's the unknown to the intellect. When I drop in, I have no clue what to do, what to say. But then, as Natasha said, that's also the room of wisdom. Wisdom is a knowing that has nothing to do with the intellect. When people are in crisis situations, they Most often, not always. Sometimes we go in our head and panic and get stuck in that panic and that thinking. But other times, people get enormously present during a crisis. And then they just know what to do. And often what they do is selfless. In times of crisis, people will often rush into a situation where their own life is in danger in order to help somebody else. And later on, people will say, oh, you were such a hero. And they went, I'm no hero. I did what anybody would do. When we drop in, we go beyond our selfish little needs and wants and ideas and beliefs, and we touch a space that, as Sid would say, awakens love and understanding. It's universal. Love and wisdom. One of my favorite quotes from Sid is, he said, this space, you can call it the state of no thought, which means you're so present, you can have personal thoughts going through your head, but you're not paying attention to them when you're in the now. State of no thought. He says, if you want to find well-being, you're looking for one thought. You're a thought away from well-being. And he says, you know what that thought is? And my ego got very excited. He's going to tell me what thought I should think if I want to have well-being. He says, yeah, it's the state of thoughtlessness, the state of no thought. It's another way of talking about pure thought. This space already is pure thought. Pure meaning uncontaminated by limiting concepts and ideas and beliefs. Pure thought. Pure thought awakens deeper feelings that connect us to life. Pure thought is love. Pure awareness, where we're not identified with the objects that come and go. The thoughts and feelings are not who we are, they come and go. We literally are this infinite, vast spiritual presence. It's what's it called, our true self. Our true self, pure consciousness, is love. So with the horses, when I drop out of the personal, which creates ideas of difference and separation, when I drop out of that, horses can sense that I am safe, so they can come closer. You sit in a room quietly and the cats and dogs will come right to you because they sense the safety of presence. Very sensitive to fear, and then they begin to experience that fear too. Right? Little kids. My wife is a baby whisperer. Everybody thinks she has some secret. She picks up crying babies and they stop. Pure presence. She doesn't have any thinking about a crying baby, so there's no tension in her at all when a baby is really having a rough time. Even if the baby keeps crying for a long period of time, she doesn't get up tight. It stays dropped in, and it's a transmission that can be experienced because it doesn't have anything to do with time and space. I've had so many teachers about this. Clients have become, any human being can drop in and they begin to channel love and wisdom. You'll hear it. I know some of you have heard this story, but what the heck, it keeps coming back to me today, so I've learned to trust that. A mother came to see me, and very loving woman. And I could see she was really anxious, and I say, well, why are you here? And she said, I'm concerned about my 7-year-old son. He's this little kid, but he would always much rather hang out with adults than kids. And I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if I should be concerned. I don't know what it means. He's like a little adult. And she says, so can you test him? Oh yeah, I'll give him the horse test. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't really believe in testing. I said, I'd be glad to meet with your son, and I'll give you my professional opinion on how well I think he's doing. So, nay. So this little boy walks into my office, and he's coming in the door, and I'm sitting over on the couch. And he walks in, and he's looking at me, and he's approaching me like the horse approached me. Nothing but eyes. And he walks right up and stands in front of me, and we meet. And he goes, oh, hi, you must be Dicken. How are you doing? This was not, how you doing? This was, how are you doing? I go, oh. I'm going, who are you? Sid, is this a joke? This is Gus. Literally, this kid, when I first met Sid, he was the most ordinary, down-to-earth. He had horse's eyes. He had little, pure mind eyes. He had those eyes. I didn't hear a word he said, but I knew he knew something by his eyes. Amazing presence. Right? So this little kid had this amazing presence. And he says, how are you? And I reflect, and I was honest and said, well, I'm doing this and feeling this and this like, and he starts asking me questions. You know the old saying that when the shoe's on the other foot? He's asking me all these questions, and he just keeps asking me these amazing questions that take me more and more reflective. And then he says, so Dicken, what do you do? And I said, well, I talk to people about their true nature. I talk to people about how we all have the capacity for happiness within us already, for love and wisdom. He's so interested in this, and he keeps asking me questions, so I said, I'm going for it. Okay, I've learned that we all think, we're all aware, we all have this deeper intelligence, this deeper knowing, and that when we wake up to the fact of thought, we fall into a quieter space, and then we just feel and know. And he goes, I know exactly what you mean. I say, please tell me. And he says, well, Dicken, it's like this. And believe me, I'm all ears. He goes, it's like this. Sometimes I don't know what to do with myself. And sometimes I go to my bed and I lay down, and it's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't go to sleep. Is that one of the, it's a metaphor. It's one of the most beautiful metaphors. It's a very old metaphor, right, of falling into the now. And so he says, like I'm falling asleep, but I don't fall asleep. And again, I got goosebumps all over my whole body. And it felt to me like I got down on my knees and said, oh, great wise one. Could you say anything more? I literally said, could you say anything more about that? And he says, well, it's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't fall asleep. And then at some point, I always feel better. And as soon as I feel better, I know what to do. Guess who had the insight? Said, thank you very much. How much do I owe you for the session? And by the way, are you available next week? Because for 3 months, I walked around blown away by this insight, the simplicity. This is what Sid says, you come back to this simplicity. It's not complicated. He said, all I'm ever telling people is look within. There's a space, touch that space. Something beautiful must happen. Bring that into the world. Right? So every time I got upset, I'd hear that little kid's voice. It's like I'm falling asleep, but I don't. Dropping in. And then at some point, there's a feeling. Sid would say, look for silence and a feeling. You say the feeling of love and the state of no thought are paired together, coupled together like lovers. Goosebumps.
I started speaking about the space within which all experience arises from, this home. Now ask yourself the question, when does experience take place? We've talked about where experience takes place, where it is it takes place inside this space. When does it take place? The answer is now. Experience always takes place now. So this morning when you had breakfast, when did that experience take place? Now. When you walked into this room, when did that take place? Now. I think you're catching on. This experience right now, listening to us, is taking place right now. What do all of these nows have in common? Is there an edge to them? Is there one now starts and then another now comes afterwards? No. There is one continuous now. It is always right now that experience is taking place. So the experience comes and goes. The experience of having breakfast, the experience of coming into the room, the experience you're having right now listening to us. But the now itself hasn't changed. It's always now. And because it is always now, because it has no edges to it, it doesn't have a time that it began and a time that it ended, it's free of all of the experience that is going on in this present moment. Do you see that? Experience is arising in this space right now, but doesn't share the limitations of the experiences. It doesn't have a time that it starts and a time that it ends. What that means is there is no yesterday. It doesn't exist. The experience of yesterday, which we can maybe all think back to the fun games we had last night. But the experience of that is taking place right now. We can all think about the future, go into stories about what we want or what we fear or desires. It's taking place right now. So the now, home, this open, infinite space, is the same. You are the now. You are this space. You are home. You are that which everything arises from in this present moment. When we read a novel, we buy the novel, the novel has already been written, right? But we cannot experience the complete novel at one moment. We have to start on page 1 and read it, even though the novel has been written. Everything has been written. But the ego needs to take one day at a time, one experience at a time. Ego creates time, space, and matter. It doesn't exist but for your thinking. It's thinking that makes it look as if things are going on in time. Oh, I had a bad experience yesterday. Oh, I had a lovely experience with the horses. It's happening right now. So, noticing who we are, this present moment, knowing that we're free from the experiences that are going on, throws us into this moment that's easy. I started saying that this home that we long for has this feeling of ease in it. It's why we love being there. I can be completely myself. What does that mean? It means free from all of the conceptual thinking or contamination, which you often call it, contaminated thinking about who I am. All the limits I put to myself. I'm a woman, or I'm this old, or I weigh too much, or too little, or I need to be more successful, I need to, whatever it is. That are all labels that we put onto ourselves. They're not who we are. They're just labels. So one of the hopeful things that the principles have given me and thousands of other people is that when we come back home, when we understand who and what we are, that we are not the experiences. It doesn't matter what kind of experiences you've gone through in life. It doesn't matter how difficult or horrible or challenging they were. This space is untouched by it, cannot be harmed by it, because it's formless. Only form can be broken. If I take a glass and I drop it, it'll probably splinter onto the floor. It's a form. It can be broken. But who we are cannot be broken. This is the hope that the principles give us, is when we understand that who we are in essence, our true nature, is untouched by anything that's happened in experience, because experience arises from our essence. It's so hopeful, and it's what helps people when we work with people, when they see the truth of that. Often when clients come and they begin telling their story, we hear many stories, of course, of terrible things that human nature sometimes do to each other. And what we do is we guide them back to their true nature. And they start seeing that there's nothing broken, nothing never lacking, as Bill would say. Nothing can be destroyed. So all of experience is taking place in this space, and all of experience is always taking place now. Now we can get involved in the experience. We do it all the time. I do it, Dicken does it. When we do that, we get caught up and we feel all the feelings that are being engaged through our 5 senses. Sid said, you have to go beyond your 5 senses. You have to go beyond time, space, and matter. When I saw that, I heard him say it in different tapes, but I saw it not that long ago, and it blew me away. Oh, that was what he meant. It touched me so deeply when I understood that the reason that we get involved in this experience is because it looks so real to us, because it engages our 5 senses. I feel it in my body, so it must be true. I see it. It's right in front of me. I see Dicken does something and I feel this. Well, he's the cause of my experience. When we go beyond time, space, and matter, when we go beyond our five senses to this present moment, in this space, I am free of the experience. I notice that experiences come and go. I am not that. I can never be the experience. I am the eternal now, out of which all experience arises. It's all you need to know. It's all anyone needs to know. It's coming home.
I don't live home all the time. Just like anybody else, I get caught up in my thinking, I get stressed, I get tension, I get confused, I have difficulty. I don't care that that happens because it happens when I'm not recognizing my true nature, which I don't see all the time. I don't care that that happens. Which makes it a lot easier for me to not be so affected when other people get caught up and say, oh yeah, that's part of the human condition. But what I do know, in a sense, I know when I wake up where to look. I do know that there is this space that's always in life. We are living in that space. It's not within us, in our bodies. We are living within that space. It's all, the divine energy of life is all surrounding, all pervading, and everything comes out of that and is that. It's all one. It's all the same energy dancing around. Well, we lose sight of that, and that's natural. But it sure helps if you know that there is a home, and then it's right there available to us. So a little bit, this metaphor came to me. You drive a car. It's a nice thing to be able to drive around and go on adventures and go places. At some point, you're going to run out of gas. Right? We run out of gas, don't we? Don't you guys sometimes just... We get exhausted by all the thinking we're doing and all the limits we're living with, and it tires us out. It's extremely tiring being caught up in your personal thinking. And we run out of gas. Now, when you drive a car and you start running out of gas, you get signals from the car that you're getting close to empty. Right? Time to fill up. So it's no problem if you know that there's a filling station. No problem. No problem if you know how to get to the filling station. And before I learned the principles, I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know there was one little step beyond anything, everything that I was thinking. I kept trying to think my way toward well-being. That's getting lost. You get more and more lost. No one has been able to think their way to this space. So when you know there's a filling station and you know in a sense that it's there and you can drop into that filling station, this is what I studied the mystics from all different traditions. Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu. I had teachers that were amazing teachers from all these different traditions. I read the mystics and I would pull out phrases from all the mystics. And I started noticing that the phrases went into several distinct categories. And one category I called empty, another category I called filled, the other category I called give it away. Every mystic from every tradition throughout time says, thank God human beings can fall away from their personal thinking and into emptiness, silence, vastness, spaciousness. It's a beautiful thing to discover. And then when we touch that space, like the little boy said, at some point I always start to feel better, right? Whatever you're feeling begins to, because it's just energy, and without the labels and the ideas and the judgments that hold that energy in place, it's taking the lid off that light, and the nature of light is to radiate to infinity. And every feeling we have is light and radiance and love waiting to radiate to infinity. So they'll talk about radiance, they'll talk about you are light, go to the light, look to the light, drop into the light, you are a being of light. Don't cover the lamp with the bushel. Take the bushel basket off of the lamp so the light can shine forth. Empty. And then the filling is a spontaneous thing that happens when we are fully present. It's not something you have to worry about doing. You don't have to worry about trying to be loving. You drop into the now and loving begins to radiate naturally. It's not something we can do. And then the teaching says, if you keep that feeling of love and peace and joy to yourself, that's selfishness. Give it away. Give it away. Or, as Sid would say, listen to the knowing in that radiant feeling, and it will guide you through your life. And it will surprise you. It will surprise you. Anybody who says, I know what I would do if I had wisdom, I guarantee that's not wisdom. Wisdom is new and fresh movement. It's not even necessarily thinking. It's just a movement in different directions that move you in a healthy direction. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called wisdom. Empty. Realizing the nature of thought allows us to experience a wide openness and emptiness, a presence. We come to our senses because we fall out of our thinking. We come to our senses where we can enjoy life. You go beyond personal thinking, you experience a peacefulness because you are no longer being battered around by I shouldn't, what do, how do I do this, oh, I don't know. You fall beyond that thinking, there's a peacefulness in that space. You fall into that, your senses wake up, and so there's joy, enjoyment. You begin to enjoy. Natasha and I went for a walk before this, and we're talking and we're in our thinking and we're not seeing what's around us and enjoying it, and it's all the principles, and then we look up and go, oh my God, whoa, and we just drop in and there's beauty. So joy and beauty arise simultaneously, naturally, when we come to our senses, right? And then, as the little boy says, these feelings start to allow us a sense of connection and intimacy. So you feel we're looking at this flower and we're just both, there's this incredible intimacy with that flower. And you can find that intimacy. This is why Sid says it's a journey that begins in love and it ends in love. It ends in pure love. It's inevitable. Right? And that love is a different kind of love. It's not a particular love. It's falling into a space where you experience intimacy with anything you look at. So all you need to know is that this exists. They always have. The principles are not ideas. They're literal. It's literally the spiritual energy of life. It's three ways of talking about that energy is intelligent, very wise, it knows how to create and operate life. It's aware. Everything that's created has awareness. And it creates specific forms, or in psychological terms, specific thoughts and feelings and experiences. It's a trinity, but they're all the same. It's all one. So,
A little bit. We have until 11, right? So we've talked a little bit about many things. What we're not. We're not our labels. We're not our identity. We're not all of these things that we say, I'm insecure, I'm this, I'm that. We use all these labels, and all they do is they limit us. We can never be anything that we can put on ourselves as a label. I sometimes use the metaphor of it's like going around with yellow post-it notes all over the body. And they change through our life, don't they? I'm not good at math. Oh, now I'm good at math. Or I like this, now I don't like that. So the labels change, and they're kind of on the outside. We're not the labels. If you took every single label off yourself, if I could strip myself of the yellow post-its, I'd still be here, free from the limitations created from all of my thinking. We're not that. We are not the limits. We are not the constraints. So that's often the first place I start with people, is to look at what are you not. Because we all grow up. We get told from we're tiny, you are a little boy. Oh, you're good at running. Oh man, you're good at football. So we take these labels and we put them on. The labels are both put on by ourselves and by our parents and people around us. You are this, you are that. Oh, I am. Oh, I'm clumsy. Oh, that's not good. And we start to believe that it's true, right? Sometimes the labels fall off by themselves. Sometimes we change them. A lot of therapy, I'm a psychotherapist, so a lot of my training has to do with, oh, that's a bad label, let's put on a new one. Well, it's still a label. It's not who I am. What I love about the understanding of the three principles, it looks beyond the labels. It looks to, what am I then? If I'm not the labels, if I'm not all these restrictions, then what am I? And that's why we want to point people. That's always what we do when we train other people, when we talk to other people, when we try and help. This is what you're not, this is what you are. I'm Danish, I can make mistakes in English, it's not my first language. And then comes the exciting part, which is taking what you know to be true into the world. Living your life with this understanding. Touching other people with this understanding. Changing your own life from this understanding of who you are.
Okay, summary of this talk. Go and enjoy your life. Don't think about this. Go and enjoy your life. And if at some point you're not enjoying your life, if you know it has something to do with thought, it'll bring you right back home, and then you can continue enjoying your life. Keep it simple.